Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 38, titled Getting the FITZ. Somebody must be mad. Little pun in there. I am your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks editor-in-chief, Nick Villano. You can find us on Facebook.com/Let's Go Devils Podcast. You can find us on Twitter or Periscope at Let's Go Devils Pod. You can find us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel called Let's Go Devils, and on Twitch, twitch.com/Let's Go Devils Podcast. Nick, lots of things to talk about, but before we begin, I just want to thank Melissa Dawn for getting us our astute producer, who, you know, we had a last minute cancellation, and I got on the phone and I said, Melissa Dawn, get me Chico Resch, and he was visiting some museum in DC, and we got Chico Resch on tonight to ask a lot of questions about Resch departing from the New Jersey Devils. So I'll let you take that, Nick.
Well, Sam, I'm still going to, in my head, pretend that you just, took out the bat signal and put the old Chico Eats logo in there and just put it up in the sky. And that's how we get Chico to call in. And,
well, I'm going to bribe him. It makes me hungry when I think about Chico Resch.
But I'm also, you got to think about food. I'm thinking about melted cheese, like nachos and cheese fries.
Oh, and Zeppelis, right? But also, I'm also dealing with the cold right now, so I'm just gutting it through because I could have canceled the podcast and canceled Chico Resch, but I decided to just muscle through it, suck it up. You know, if we're down 5-0, we're just going to score a few goals, like Blake Coleman, and not give up. So, but here we are.
I'll score a hat trick for you, Sam. Don't you worry. I will score a podcast hat trick.
Okay, great. All right. So now we did do the replay of that stunning announcement while it was happening at PJ Ryan's. We had Bruce Driver with us. Bruce knows Chico, obviously, original Devils. And it was quite interesting how that, it came out of nowhere, out of left field, an hour before the game, literally. Well, maybe an hour and 15 minutes before the game. We had you on the Let's Go Devils podcast at PJ Ryan's, and you made some great points, about what the future holds, but also I saw the video of Tom Fitzgerald, since we're talking about getting the FITZ, saying something to, I'm paraphrasing, that I never thought I, pretty much get the job as GM this way, and he almost looked kind of a little distraught in that press conference, a little awkward, especially with the owner right next to him.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Your first GM job is supposed to be this, the happiest, one of the happiest days of your life. It's supposed to be like your wedding, but it's almost like if your wife picked you to go down the aisle with, but she broke up with her boyfriend yesterday. You're like, wait, what? It's oh, cool. It's yeah, this is great. I get happiness, but I also what just happened? And and Fitz and Cheryl were very close. Cheryl took him under his wing, and Resch has. My issue is Resch has a lot of clout in the NHL, and people pick up the phone when he calls. And even though he's won a lot of these trades, a lot of teams never felt cheated when they traded with him. So I got Denny Brutinel asking me if I'm all for Gallant. Yes, I'm all for Gallant. I've already written about this. Sam, I am driving the Gallant trade. Friend of the podcast, Tyler Kelly, is in my passenger seat. He's already got the the drum circle or whatever he does, the summiting circle that he does to try the thing that he did to get Gusev to New Jersey. He's done it to get Gallant to New Jersey. This is the first time, Sam, that I've seen a coach that's on the market that I say, bring him here. I did not want Laviolette. I did not want DeBoer. I do not want Babcock. I know I'm going off on a tangent. I figured we talk a lot of share with Chico, so I figured we talk about this real quick because I want Gerard Gallant. I think he's the perfect guy. Maybe not perfect, but he's one of the better guys available to get Nico and Jack Hughes to where they need to be. And on top of it, he's really good at taking a bunch of misfits and making them a team. And that's what we have here. He's going to get the best out of Jesper Bratt, the best out of Jesper Boquist, the best out of Miles Wood, the best out of Will Butcher. He's going to get the best out of these guys that other teams weren't able to help thrive. These guys, Miles Wood had that one really good season where he had 19 goals under Hines, and then he's kind of been the rest of the time. Blake Coleman has been insane. Can Gallant come in and make him a 30-goal scorer? Maybe, and then if he gets a $4 or $5 million contract, you get a 30-goal scorer out of it. That'd be great. What can he make out of Jesper Bratt? Jesper Bratt, I'm still kind of on the fence. I don't know what he's going to be. Boquist is all the talent in the world, but he just needs to have a guy who puts him on the right path. And then you got Gusev. Gusev could easily be a 30-goal, 50-assist guy in this league. He just needs the right guy to get him there.
Now, I got a question for you, because now that this poses the question, let's forget about availability. You were all on top of John Cooper, as the next head coach of the New Jersey Devils. If they were both available, who would you pick, Cooper or Gallant?
Cooper.
Okay. But the next best thing is Gallant?
Yeah. I don't think Cooper is going to be available anymore. I think that ship is sit unless they lose in the first round again. So root for them getting that, what you really want to root for is the Maple Leafs to go on a run, get the 1 seed. So Boston and Tampa have to play each other. And then if Tampa loses, I think that Cooper might get fired. And then I want Cooper. But Gallant is of the guys available, and it looks like coaches are getting hired in the middle of the season. Like, that's just the thing.
Hired and fired, or fired and hired?
Yeah. Like that. It's just the coaching carousel. And I was okay with somebody picking up Laviolette. I was okay with good DeBoer going. I was okay with Hines. Obviously, I was okay with losing him. I was okay with all these coaches getting other jobs because I'm like, okay, and I'll be okay if Babcock gets the Seattle job, and I'll be, there's a guy that I want to do a little bit more research on. That's really interesting. Ricard, I believe it's Gronberg. Tyler's actually put me onto him, and he's somebody who Terrence, calm down. Terrence, people asking us where Chico is. You guys know how the podcast goes. 9:15 is when the guest comes on. Sam, you got to get these people in line.
First of all, Terrence, I like you. You're pretty cool. You want to get that out of the way. However, we interrupted Chico's museum tour of DC to get him on the podcast. Cut us a little slack, okay? Chico is probably eating somewhere in his hotel room, just prepping for his big appearance tonight. Give us a little slack. That's all. But I still love you, Terrence.
Right now, he's having his post-dinner, pre-midnight snack. So let the man eat.
I know. Wow, I'm eating my dessert right now. And in full disclosure, we're not sponsored by Hershey's. It was just I was hungry.
I have my dessert too. This is my dessert, son. Anyway,
but carry on.
I would love. Cooper's the number one guy on my list. Gronberg is the guy I have to do more research, but he's I've done very small amounts of research, and I love what I see so far. He's a guy that seems to be one of those kind of offensive gurus that you see in maybe the NFL. The number one thing, Sam, the number one thing that they need in a coach is somebody who's going to get the best out of Nico and Hughes, even more than somebody who's going to get the best out of Blackwood, because you can get a goalie on the market. Think about this. Robin Lehner Still only got a 1-year deal after being a Vezina finalist last year. So I think that you can get somebody who can take over a net on the free agent market. It's one of the few players that you can get on the free agent market without killing yourself or way overspending. So I think that I think that they just got to focus on getting somebody who's going to get the best out of Nico and Hughes, and then those two will in turn get the best out of everybody else. But then, a guy like Gallant you don't have to worry about that. He's going to get the best out of those third and fourth line players. He's going to keep them motivated. I don't understand why they fired him. I don't think DeBoer is going to get more out of them than Gallant is, and that's nothing against DeBoer. DeBoer's a fine coach, but his track record is about similar to Gallant's, except he's had much better players in San Jose than Gallant had in Vegas up until this season. And I get it. Vegas is trying to make a move, but that's just it seems like it's a spoiled ownership group who doesn't understand how hockey works. They lost in the first round last year because of a BS major penalty call, and you're going to fire a coach. Good. Bring him. Bring him to New Jersey. I'll take him.
Yeah. On the flip side, I think that the Devils ownership was just a little too patient with everything. And
but now they're the opposite.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's why it was so surprising last Sunday.
Like all of a sudden they're like, win now?
Yeah, we're taking a different direction. What kind of direction is that?
You got Corey Schneider on for what is it? 2 more years after this one at $6 million a year. Even if you buy him out, you're paying $2 million a year for the guy for the next 4 years. And then you still have to replace him. And there's a couple good goalies in the market, so I'm kind of confident that they can replace him with a decent backup, so that Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't have to play 75 games. But when they said win now, and they said it's those 2 words you never want to hear an owner say, because that was kind of lose mentality that really blew our prospect system up. And I did an experiment the other day and just kind of compared what other GMs have gotten out of their drafts compared to what Shero got out of his draft. And I'll put Shero's draft resume up against anybody. So that's something else that they have to replace, and it all gets a lot harder when you don't have the right coach in place. I think Shero's fatal flaw, and I'm sure you're going to go get Chico in a sec, but I think that Shero's fatal flaw was that he was too loyal to his guys. He wants his guys to work out. He wanted John Hines to work out. Didn't work. Should have fired him after the season before they made the playoffs. I think he should have fired him that season, personally. Then he made the playoffs. I was like, all right, maybe I'm wrong. But that was just a masterclass in everything working out. And then the next season, he was terrible. He gave him another shot with better talent. And then he should have fired him when they went 0-6. It's over. You can't come back from that unless you make a major change. And they didn't make a major change till it was too late. And it's still too late. I think they're still 13 points out of the playoffs, even though they've been on fire. They're beating the best teams in the league. And they still can't make up any ground. So I just don't see what I feel like something's missing here with the mindset of ownership where they're telling us that they want to win now. Your best players are 20, your most talented players are 20 and 18. And then you got PK, who I think is still good. I know we're out on PK for some reason. I love PK. And maybe I'm overcorrecting for the people who are against him completely. But I know he had a bad start. And there were some chemistry issues there. And maybe there's reasons for that. But clearly something has changed in PK. And he's playing a lot better. He's still a little scatterbrained in his own zone. But that's just who he's been his whole career. He is a boomer bust player. And boomer bust players get $9 million sometimes. And when he's booming at his best, he is one of the better defensemen in the game. Is that still in him? I don't know. But yeah, and then John B points out that PK came out. This was weird, Sam. was that the NHL.com's Twitter page put out something that PK Subban explicitly said he doesn't want to be traded and that he's, quote, old school and would never ask to be traded. I've never seen the NHL explicitly talk about players calling for trades or not calling for trades. I don't know. Maybe it's my psychoanalysis part of my brain that's telling me that maybe the NHL does think differently about the Devils. And, Elliot Friedman does seem to talk a lot of negatives in his 31 Thoughts columns about the Devils and things like that. But it just hit me weird.
Well, yeah, and that's something we can ask Chico. I'm going to go get him right now.
Okay.
But I see that Facebook Live is humming, Twitter Periscope, and YouTube Live. I know Terrence is waiting, so we don't want him to wait anymore. So I'll shut up. You talk to the folks on social media, and I'll be right back with Chico.
Yeah, we're talking a lot of PK. PK always hits a certain bone for our Devils fans, whether it's good or bad. If Cheryl's so loyal to his guys, why do you let Hines bury the young players? Zacha, Bratt, Boquist, healthy scratches. So, Michael, GMs don't make a lot of day-to-day plays. They make suggestions, which is why I think a guy like Mueller was in the lineup so much. But the coach has the power to make up those healthy scratches. And Boquist wasn't his guy. Like, Boquist was he's 20. So he's gonna sit them. And Bratt and Zacha, I feel like Zacha is a guy that Shero doesn't want to claim. And I think that's kind of why it went down like it went down over the summer. Like, he would never treat, like, Will Butcher. He would never treat Will Butcher, who's a guy who left Denver, left the Colorado Avalanche organization to come to the Devils. He was never going to tell him, what he told Zacha when it came out that he was thinking about going to the KHL. Doesn't matter. Yeah, he drafted those guys. It's wonderful. It's fine. They're 20. You can sit healthy scratch 20-year-olds. His guys is like Mueller. Mueller he brought here to be a starter from day one. And he's never been up to snuff. His guys are like Hines was one of his guys. It was his coach. That was the guy he plucked out of obscurity and made him an NHL head coach. And now he's in Nashville. It's just very strange because him and Shero and David Poile are very close, and we've covered this a lot. But like I said, I think Butcher's one of his guys. I do think Bratt. I think Bratt is one of his guys. I know he got healthy scratch, but he's the guy who he was the guy. Bratt was the poster child for I'm a good draft GM, because look at this guy I got out of the 6th round who's in the NHL in the 2nd year, signed him out of Sweden after that 2nd year, beat the pants off of everybody in the preseason, went on fire to start the season. And Bratt is a little inconsistent. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he jumps lines and he's trying to just build chemistry with somebody, and he gets hurt every so often, but it's usually only 2 or 3 games here and there. He just needs to kind of, and Michael says, if you can't defend your picks, you got to be canned. There's no defending his picks. He's been here for 4 years. He's had 4 drafts. Do you know how many teams with 4 drafts have 7 players that have played in the NHL in the last 4 drafts? I went through about 15 teams the other night, and it was 0. 0 teams with 7 players in the last 4 drafts that have played in the NHL. I haven't gone through every team, so I'm not saying that's every team. Hardline Betty says she's hungry later. Well, Chico's coming on. I mean, that's not fair. He's hungry too, but he's coming on. But anyway, you have 7 players. You have McLeod, I think Baddock was one of them. You have Bratt, obviously Bratt, Heischer, Hughes, Bastian, and there was one other player. There's 7 players that have been drafted in the last 4 years. That if you look at the rest of the teams, like Carolina only has Svechnikov, Bean, and like one other player. Chicago's got Doc from this year and Boquist from last year, and not a lot else. You go through these teams, like Los Angeles is a team I thought would have a lot of them, and they just don't have it in them. Like their draft acumen just wasn't what it was when the Devils had Shero here.
Hey, Nick, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Before we get Chico on, we have a lot of people filing into a lot of our social media pages, so we'll do a little station identification. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast network, all powered by Nova Product Design from Primetime Radio, State of Fan Address, Nick and Sam. All right, so on the Bobby's Auto Care Hotline, you know him as Chico Resch on the Devils Hockey Network, radio color analyst. Chico, thank you for coming on short notice. I know that you're kind of tired of visiting the D.C. area. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm tired. I walked 7-8 miles today. A gorgeous day here in Washington, and just had to go out and think and talk a little bit. You know what the funniest thing was? A big Devils fan. I got lost coming back home, and I went to the wrong hotel, which, I hate to admit, because how can you get the hotel wrong? But there's many of them here, and we're at the Four Seasons, but I thought I was at the Ritz. So I went and asked the guy at the Ritz, gentlemen, where is the Four Seasons? This is no word of lie. As big as Washington is, I come after talking to him and walk half a block, and I'm going to turn left, and this guy says, "Hey, Chico, what are you doing here?" I thought, what? Who could know me? His name was Chris Lynch, and he listens to you guys, but he just got a new job here, and he was he just happened to be on the street going to get something to eat, and I'm the only guy he would have ever known. But anyway, it was just kind of funny. So it was an eventful day today, and but it was a good one.
Chico, speaking of eventful days, the Devils had one on Sunday. Kind of major shock where they after a season of change, another one came where the owners brought the hammer down on Resch. Just kind of give me your, I'm sure you guys were already at the rink when you found out. What was that like? What was that feeling like?
Well, it was pretty much disbelief. It's the old what? And then they'd say, yeah. And of course, no one really knew any of the details. No one knew what the reasons would be. There was nothing indicating that something like this was going to happen. So you can imagine everybody was scrambling around waiting for something to be officially delivered. And so then you guys kind of know the rest, with Josh Harris. And he went and spoke to the team, and I obviously spoke to Tommy Fitzgerald, and he had already spoken to Resch, and then he had the press conference, and then from there, you guys know just about as much as I do.
Yeah, it was so strange. It was just kind of like, it's been a season of disbelief around the NHL with all these coaches fired out of nowhere on really good teams. And then Resch, who I still think did a good job here and kind of deserved a little more time. But, it's starting to leak out these rumors, and who knows what these rumors are. But, there's rumors about the analytics team. There's rumors about the direction they want to take the team. And obviously the general manager and the ownership wanted to go in different directions. I think that's pretty clear when you fire a general manager in the middle of the season. That is the philosophy, because it's not like firing Resch is going to get the guys riled up like firing a coach would. So do you think, they came out and said they want to win now. Is this a team that can do that? Do they have the foundation in place, Chico?
Those are really good, good analyzing of everything. No one really knows. I don't think they're going in different directions. Heck, the only direction you and I and everybody else wants to go, I want to go towards that winning direction, and we want to all do that. And unfortunately, it's going to take some time, and it has been a long 5 years. But what Ray started with when Lou Lamoriello left, I was going over. I looked a little bit last night. There was Green and there was Corey and Travis Zajac, and talked to Ray Coleman last night, and he was very excited, you guys, about scoring his very first hat trick. He had been drafted but hadn't been playing, and then Pavel Zacha, that was a Lou Lamoriello draft, and
that was actually he drafted him with Ray. Pavel Zacha was drafted about 6 weeks after Ray got hired.
Yeah, no, but Ray wasn't involved in that draft, in that pick.
No, absolutely
I'm telling
not.
you the inside. No, that was Lou and Dave Conti's pick. The first pick that Ray really was involved in was Mackenzie Blackwood. The second pick, where he said, I would really like to have a strong input into picking Mackenzie Blackwood. And I could tell you that truthfully. So, but what I'm saying is that's kind of what Ray started with, which, isn't much. It's not. I was thinking of the Rangers rebuild, which they announced last year and so forth. They had a lot more in the cupboard, to start their rebuild than Ray had, and so I think we were all frustrated because it was taking. We're anxious to win, but I guess what I always say about situations, Gerard Gallant got fired. As you know, that was today. And I would say you've got to, there's two things that's going on here in these situations. One is, what did they do wrong to get fired, right? In terms of really their managerial or their coaching techniques or whatever. Obviously, it could have been a rift with the higher uppers on either of those cases, which I don't think it was, but whatever. So if it's not that's something you can put your finger on that was done improperly, and for instance, they blew I don't know, whatever it would be. If it was a GM, maybe he blew like 2 or 3 picks. A coach just wasn't implementing a style that his team could play. I get that, but the second thing that I think we all have to realize now in a changing world is the bosses, whether it's the owner or it's the GM, that they are not as patient and they have reasons why they make changes that are more personal than it used to be. And I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but let's just say one of you guys are my GMs. And I just
sweet, I accept.
Okay. But you and I aren't connecting. Not that you're my GM. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. We're just not connecting on a personal level or something. I might make a move just because of that. So I think with the situation with Ray, if you break down all the moves that Ray has made, you can't really put your finger on any that he's really missed. So obviously it had to be I think, an interpersonal relationship, and it was no major one event or anything, so I don't know. I just feel terrible for Ray and all the people that he put in place, because he threw his heart and soul into this. And, and again, the owners are, they can do whatever they like. And I don't know really the reasons, but I just feel bad that it was starting to turn the corner. Like the minor league team had won 7 straight. If Paul Mary hadn't gotten hurt, that they were like that first line of Bratt and Nico and Paul Mary were coming together, and, Jack was coming back, and Goose was starting to, play like he did over the Continental League, and Mackenzie, if he hadn't gotten his teeth knocked out, he was really coming on. So, again, guys, it's just really unfortunate that it happened at all. But again, we've been around, right, guys? That's pro sports, and that's the things that that shock you, but that happen, and I think it's happening with more regularity now than it did in the past.
It does seem like patience is not a virtue that exists in the NHL.
Yeah.
So,
good point.
and you mentioned Gallant. You know, I don't know what they said to Lane Nasruddin when he picked up the interim role, and whether this is something just to get him some experience. You know, I know a lot of really good coaches start as an interim. You know, they go back to assistant, and then they get that next job somewhere else. And I think that's kind of what Nasruddin is. I might be wrong, but I think Gallant is a guy who could really fit here. What do you think?
A lot of guys. What do you mean? I'm sorry, I missed that. A lot of other coaches?
I think Gallant, Gerard Gallant, the guy who just lost his job in Vegas. I think he's a guy who could fit in New Jersey. You think that he might be a fit?
Well, here's what we have to look at. Do you remember that? Okay, first of all, I asked this question rhetorically. What did Gerard Gallant do from getting that expansion team to the finals? What was that? 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 3 seasons ago. What did he do to become a really poor coach from that time to now that his team, they're in the playoffs, but they're in a wild card fight? How did he become a liability after he was such an asset in such a short period of time? And really the team is, that they could still make the playoffs, and who knows what happens in the playoffs. And then when you let him go, you're now going, and I like Pete DeBoer. I think he's a good coach, good guy, but I'm thinking, I read the comments that Dougie Wilson talked about that they needed to relieve Pete DeBoer from San Jose because that team was underachieving, and they thought that there was more in that team. So we got to get rid of Pete DeBoer. But now, only months later, Vegas is saying, we're not achieving what we need to achieve, but we're going to take this gentleman that San Jose has already said couldn't get their team to the highest level, but we're going to take him now, and he's going to get us to a higher level. You know what I mean? The logic just defies me on why they decide who is going to be their coach. I think it's really frightening to me that, like you said, patience isn't a much of a virtue, and really breaking down what people actually are doing wrong or right is so ambiguous that they just fire away here. And just the last thing is with John. Our expectations were way too high maybe coming into the year. At the same time, everything that could go wrong, it was Murphy's Law, went wrong. And I understand fans were frustrated, and I know that ownership was frustrated, and many levels. So what you do is you think, well, these fans are paying a lot of money, and you guys are all very loyal and rabid. We got to do something to at least see if something could change the direction. And the simplest way is to fire the head coach. And so that's what, and it was painful for Ray to have to do that. I think in his heart of hearts, like myself, it wasn't the coaching. I mean, you look at what happened early on, Corey Schneider getting injured in the first game, and Gusev was, remember, he was lost. He hadn't played over here. Jack Hughes was just a boy trying to, find a little bit of traction. Nothing was going right. And then, if we would have had some shootouts, you think about this, guys, if we'd had some shootout wins, if somebody could have put the puck in the net and we had won a couple of those shootouts, how that would have changed things. I'm just, PK Subban really started slow. I mean, he was not any kind of an positive impact to start with. he's coming around now, which is nice to see. But the bottom line was, having played in the NHL for 13 years, I'm just saying, like, people don't realize chemistry, it's not something you can brew. It has to, it just sort of happens. And sometimes, once in a while it can happen quickly, but generally I'm thinking like half a season, and then I'll get off this. I'm rambling here. But for instance, here's a good example. Nico Hischier and Kyle Palmieri now are developing chemistry. That could be quite a duo. And Jesper Bratt, who finally is getting it going and starting to understand, the consistency level. Boy, they dominated 2 games in a row, and then, Kyle got hurt. So my point is, nobody wants to wait anymore, because you don't, when you buy season tickets or you invest, you're investing in every game. You're not saying, well, these games will really frustrate you for 20 of these games, or 25 are going to really frustrate you. So you got to wait to really enjoy it till we get after game 25. You want it right away. So do I. So I think there was just everything that could have gone wrong for New Jersey went wrong in those first 20, 25 games. And, then you look at all the spin-off from it, and, just a lot. I've never seen a season quite like this one ever in my 40 years in the NHL. Never.
No, this one's different. This one's been different. It's always just felt, I've been watching the Devils since, the early 90s, and, and you've been around them since they've existed. And this just feels like something we've never had before. But, Chico, before we let you go, I just got to ask, the trade deadline's around the corner, and, they made the Scherer move with, I have to think they made the Scherer move with that in mind. Do you think that the Devils should try to move some of these pieces, or do you think they should keep them and try to build around them? I think what's more important, building assets for the future and not taking chances that they don't resign or whatever the case may be, or do you think it's more important to try to retool this lineup and give it a go next year?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, let's just go over the free agents. I mean, I know, like Andy Green, I'm a big Andy Green fan. I realize the end is nearing, and I realize also Andy has always been a defenseman that needs some help. Like he's great when a team's playing as a unit. Andy can still play. When it breaks down and then it's got every man for himself, I mean, then Andy gets exposed a little bit. So he would be one guy that I would say, in the right situation, you're not gonna get a blockbuster trade anyway. I would just say, I don't know that that's it's gonna happen there. I would ask you guys, the biggest question is Sammy Vatanen, and I'm gonna ask you all, would you sign him, or would you like to sign him? And that's not going to be the case. Of course, they might. How much would you offer Sammy Vatanen? And what do you guys think?
I mean, I'll go first. Sam, I see you're here too, but I would offer Sammy 6 by 5. I'd give him $6 million, and that's the top offer. I'd try to get him for a little bit less, but he's making, I think, close to 5. You give him a little bit of a raise. He's been a warrior for you.
Mm-hmm.
He's played after concussions, things like that. So I'd give him a little bit of a raise. Give him 4 to 5 years. I think at the end of that, it'll be a little bit of an overpay, but I think it'll be right on the money for the first 3 years. So you give him those extra 2 years where you can kind of be a veteran in the room, kind of like what Green's been, as long as you play him in the right position. The thing that would scare me is that then you're still in a situation where you have 3 right-handed defensemen who are top 4 guys in Vatanen, Severson, and Subban. And I'm really worried about, I feel like there's been a lot of overlap with Severson, which has led to him not having, like last year, Severson was great. This year he's been a little bit more inconsistent and he's made more mistakes. And I think that, with adding Subban to the lineup, I think it kind of put Severson a little out of place. So that's my only concern about re-signing Sammy.
Yeah, I like your breakdown there. That I could certainly agree with that.
I
Anybody else?
would, Chico. I would do almost the same deal with as what Nick says. No higher than 6.5. No higher than 5 years. But to get them to come off the price, I would even throw in the no trade, give them that authority, or maybe a list to keep that number down. As you know, Chico, uh, the Devils are actually blessed to have three right-handed defensemen on their team that are mobile, that can score and move the puck, and I like to keep the key nucleus for at least 5 years, and build that chemistry and just let it happen is what you were talking about.
Who would be the three? I'm sorry, you're talking. Who do you think will be here 5 years from now? You think it's Sammy?
Sammy. Well, during the next 5 years, Sammy Severson and potentially PK, but he's only got a few years left. It really depends in the next year and a half. You know what he contributes to the team if he finds his way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, and I just want to throw in here, guys. Just up in Canada, and you know, and it's fun for everybody. Just zero in on the Ottawa 67s junior team, and I know you know why, but I talked to some people who went to the World Championships, and they said Kevin Ball really is someone we should get excited for. Now he's going to be, I mean, think more. I don't want to even say Chara, but think 6'7", rangy, and you know in the NHL now hitting is kind of being removed, so it's more reach, stick, you know, leverage, pushing, shoving. This guy's 6'7". He can skate well, and the reports coming out of the World Juniors where they won the gold was that the kid will play. I'm not saying next year, but we're pretty good there because that can be an anchor. Also, I heard the Russian defenseman that we had that was the silver medalist. He looked very good as well. Ty Smith is kind of flattening out. Again, I'm not writing anyone off. We got very excited about Ty Smith, but after what happened this summer, I do not want to I don't want to blow things out of proportion. We did that over the summer. You know, remember when even Damon Severson called it the summer of Shiro, and I thought, oh, don't say that. That's you know, you're buying into all that. So. But my point is, the Devils have some nice pieces in place on defense, you know, and then, you know, maybe there would be a guy that might be available, but I like Sammy. And, you know, I want to say Resch tried very hard to sign Jacob Trouba, and I know other teams did too. Just so when I hear that he didn't try, or maybe he didn't restructure the D well enough. He tried. He knew. Listen, guys, I like our defense. And Kenny Danico and I were talking about. I like our defense a lot individually, but as a group, I know it's not the best. We have to improve our defense. It's just again, without getting into it too much. That has to be restructured, and it has to be propped up a little bit before next season. And I do agree that signing Sammy Vatanen would certainly be a nice step in that direction. And you know, I don't know. I guess I wish Damon Severson, and I like Damon. I wish he kind of could have taken it to another level. Not like John Carlson. We're here in Washington. I don't expect him to be John Carlson, but I'd hope Damon could just bump it up to, you know, a third, more consistency, you know, and you know, but he is what he is. He tries hard, and you know, I don't know. It's not. I guess I'll say, guys, it's so hard. It's so hard to build a winner because there's 30 teams, 31 teams trying to get the same players we're trying to get, and if you can't miss in drafting anymore, right? You guys know that. You cannot miss your drafts. And you guys were talking about that when you came on. You are going to build through the draft, and that's a guarantee. Trades and free agencies, that's kind of an iffy deal. So that's about. I think I've said everything I got to say, guys, and I can't thank you for giving me a platform.
Oh, I mean, Chico, no, we really appreciate you coming on. You've talked us through a very hard time in Devils fandom, and I know a lot of the Facebook has been blowing up since you came on, and they all are pretty much on Chico's side. But I mean, why wouldn't you be? You're the Devils guy, so you've talked us through every single era here. So we know you got your finger on the pulse here. You gave us a lot of good information we didn't know before. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, okay. Hey, just really, this is going to be it. Would you play? I want to ask everybody: would you start Corey Schneider tomorrow, or would you go back to Louis Domingue?
Why not start Schneider? He looked all right again. I mean, I know the Leafs weren't really trying at the end there, but that one goal he let up, nobody's saving that. You of all people know nobody was saving that goal. So the people who are blaming Schneider for that goal was insane. So I'd give him a shot. He's up. Why not? And honestly, Chico, we're still, I think, 13 points out of a playoff spot. What's one loss really going to hurt?
Yes. But here's what I would say. Just think of it this way, though, too. And I really like Corey Schneider and Louis Domingue. But you got to say, does Louis Domingue, though, does he deserve a start because he won here? Last night he had no chance. Remember this. Louis Domingue and Corey Schneider, they are vying for the second position on the Devils. Mackenzie Blackwood, I said it before, poor guy, he took the padding out of his chin. And his mask was riding right on his face, on his chin. So when that slap shot drove that mask up, if that padding had been in there, it would have went past his mouth. But that's what knocked his teeth out. But he is going to be the Devils' go-to guy. So all I'm saying, and I guess I'm more of a fair guy, you got Louis Domingue and Corey Schneider vying to try to be the backup or whatever, or a starter could be. So that's why I'm just was curious with you guys. If you think through, be Louis, be Corey, be the coach, what do you think would have been the fair thing to do tomorrow? But, I mean, I don't know. I'm asking you guys.
I would go with Louis if you ask me. I'm opposite Nick. I can understand what Nick's saying, Chico. He won back-to-back games against the Capitals and Tampa Bay Lightning. Maybe ran out of gas up in Toronto. I don't know. But, I mean, you've already given up your seventh round conditional. You might as well play him. And he's shown to be resilient in these type of situations, which you want in a backup goaltender, because to me, the goaltending position is 1A and 1B. You're only as good as your goaltender. So, and if he shows up when needed, especially when something horrific injury that gruesome injury that Mackenzie Mac Black had. These are the type of goalies that can come in out of nowhere and perform. And that's, that may be a little bit different than, a full-time starter that Devils fans are normally used to with Marty Brodeur. So that's my take on it. But I do agree with Nick, too. It's just there's no wrong answer to it.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to bring up.
Go ahead. Keep going. No, you go.
Well, Chico, you probably don't know. I'm Nick Villana. I'm the other guy on the podcast that you haven't spoken to yet. But I'm actually I'm a Tampa transplant. So I live in Tampa right now. So
okay.
So I've been around. I've seen a lot of Lightning articles where they're talking about how Domingue got a raw deal down here, and he kind of got a chance to show his old team what they gave up on. So this is a talented kid.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a guy who should have been in the AHL in the first place. Maybe he had a couple issues that he had to work out, and he did that here. But he's a guy, he reminds me of Eddie Lack. We had Eddie Lack a couple years ago. He's a guy that absolutely could be in the NHL and be a backup goalie. He was just in a situation where there was two guys in front of him. I think Louis was in that situation in Tampa, and the people in Tampa think the same way. They'd be more than happy to have him behind Vasilevsky. So just kind of seeing people come out and say that, and like Sam said, there's no wrong answer here. I think if you start either one, you have a chance to win. And I think that it's not going to change how the Devils are going to go about the goalie position in the future either way. So it all depends on what, Tommy Fitzgerald and Elaine Nasruddin want to see. If they want to see whether Corey Schneider should be up here for the rest of the season, you got to give him a start. If you want to see if you want to give Louis Domingue a chance to prove himself more after he played out of his mind, then you do that. I think either way, you're doing what you need to do.
That's a great point. And my only thought was, last night in Toronto, that Hyman dives and tips a shot that hit the ice and then bounced up 3 feet. Tavares is incredible. 2 backdoor plays. I'm just saying, my heart went out to Louis because he was so encouraged and so positive in the morning, and it just blew up on him. But here would be the only thing I was thinking: if Louis played tomorrow, because he's beaten Washington, and I'd love to beat him again, and say whatever happens, but say if we don't win or whatever, Corey Schneider's last game of the regular season was in Columbus. He had a 2-0 shutout. I think it was 2. And I thought you could play him there because I agree with we're all saying the same thing. I would like to see the Corey Schneider, who's kind of rebuilt some confidence and got some flow to his game from playing in Binghamton. I would like to see him play up here again to see, if things have changed. So, yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing. Whichever way, I would like to see. Maybe I'd like to see each of them play one game here of these last 2.
Yeah, let's see what they got. At this point, and get the best of both worlds before Mackenzie Blackwood, comes back. This is one of the few chances because I think Mac Black is going to go, a lot of games once he recovers, after having his teeth knocked out.
Oh, geez, guys, I've never seen anything like it. Teeth and blood and always because he said, I know, I started it in junior. I took that the foam piece out that keeps the bottom of the mask away from my face, but I felt when it was riding on my face, I could see down better. Yeah, but and let's be honest, guys, he's been doing this for about over 3 years. So, and nothing ever even came close to happening. So it was just like the season, right? We were saying everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Even the timing of him getting hit in the bottom of a mask with a slapper, 4 years now, it hasn't even come close to that. And this year of all years, and comes up and knocks his 4 teeth out. And so, well, let's just hope some smooth sailing, hey, boys, for the rest of this year. Let's hope that we can have some really good things to get excited about. And
Chico, I just want to
Devils fans. Like I met this, Chris on the street, and he was so insightful. He was so on top of everything, and I know you guys try to do the same thing. And so keep up the good work. And I would just say, try to sift through some of the crazy rumors, like analytics, getting Ray fired or whatever. This Chris guy told me on the street, but I'm thinking analytics. I don't think so, but so anyway, it's hard though. There's so much stuff being thrown at the walls. It's hard not to think some of it might stick, but You guys are smarter than that.
Well, I think analytics are just numbers. That's all they are to me, to be honest. Because if you see how hard a player works on the ice, and the rest takes care of itself. That's my opinion on analytics.
Well, I agree with you. Like I was saying, if tomorrow night, um, uh, Alexander Ovechkin gets 4, what do they call 4 high percentage shots or high? What do they call that when they say if they should score?
Oh, high danger shots.
High danger shots.
shots.
So he gets, So he gets 4, and the guy McPherson, somebody on the fourth line gets 4. Their gauged the same. They're the same on the sheet of paper. They're the same number. I'm saying that's not the same when it's 4 by Ovechkin or 4 by the fourth liner. But it doesn't differentiate some of the key factors in, what goes on the ice. Defenseman on it. Let's say a defenseman on a change. He came off the bench. He's on a change, and somebody's coming with the puck at high speed, and he hasn't quite gotten settled. And that guy's going to, say the guy beats him, that goes down as, a negative analytics. They don't put an asterisk and say, well, he kind of got on the ice late because of whatever the change. Do you know what I mean? Like, some of
exactly.
It's good, but some of it you just can't take to the bank. It's just there's too much else. But I mean, it's a nice fun thing to talk about a little bit. I just wouldn't want people to base their opinions totally on analytics. I guess that's the way I would look at it.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the old days of the plus minus and the secondary assists. Like the plus minus, if you just step on the ice quickly and the ref's not looking, it's like suddenly you're on the plus column, or the secondary assist. You just happen. I mean, for example, here's a memorable goal. Now, I'm not saying that Scott Stevens didn't deserve that secondary assist, but when he flipped, backhanded the puck into that corner, and Elias got it and fed it to Arnott. I mean, how do you measure that? And I just don't think, this is my opinion, of course. I don't think these numbers mean anything unless you know the story behind it. Those numbers can be useful as a tool, but it's just, I mean, heck, I used to get like, sometimes on a test score in school, I would get a 95 and, this and that, or a 70. But sometimes I worked harder to get that 70 than that 95 on a test score. It doesn't tell the whole story.
That's true.
And that's why you need to have the right judgment calls, a right GM that knows how to push, the right buttons at the right time and succeed. And that's the art that you can't really, calculate. And I think part of it, this ownership group, and this is, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, Chico, but I think this ownership group relies heavily on analytics because they're all hedge fund guys. That's what they do all day. They are geniuses at their jobs. That's why they own the team. But to transfer into hockey, you need to have someone with the knowledge of how the game is played in today's world, but also know how to read these analytics and translate it into to making it a tool in your toolbox to make decisions. So that's just my opinion. Of course, I don't get paid that much to do it, but that's my observation. And maybe again, this is pure speculation. I know Ray probably likes the modern stuff, but maybe the ownership group talking about different direction, just reading between the lines, maybe that's what they're seeing, something different. I just don't know. And again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's who's pressing the right buttons at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's sort of like the analytics, like everything will tell you what you want to hear. I mean, if you want to hear a negative angle, that'll tell you that, and then you can pick something that's a little more positive. I think, guys, like, with your listeners and that, and you're watching the game, I mean, I'm amazed. I talked to some fans. I'm amazed how intensely you guys watch the little finer points of the game, and it is what happens. I mean, you don't know, you can't measure the guy's heart. Like, there's a puck battle. You can watch to see who is more intent on getting that puck. And that's what you want to look at and say, he got it, but he had an advantage when he got into the corner. Like, you know what I mean? His body position was better. So the player who lost it wasn't that he didn't fight as hard, but he went in at a disadvantage. I mean, things like that. Speaking of which, like, Jack Hughes now is getting so much better at stealing pucks and retrieving them because of his quickness, right? And but he's not going to battle. He can't battle a big defenseman or a big winger for that puck. He's got to be smarter. And it's those things that I find are the enjoyment of the game. Not that it's like face-offs, guys. For me, if one team's winning 53 and one's winning 47, it's nothing. That's like one guy wins 6 and one guy wins 4. But on a power play, on a whichever zone the face-offs in, those things matter. Like last night, the Leafs win. We're playing okay, but the Leafs win a draw. And it wasn't just Travis; it was the whole group winning it. But it gets back to the point, and Sandin, the defenseman, shoots it, and they get that lucky tip. And we weren't playing terrible till then, but it was that face-off win at that moment that I would count as significant. We might have even ended up winning more face-offs in the first period, but I'd say it doesn't matter. That's the only one that mattered in some ways. But so, that's what I would encourage all you guys to do. And you seem to be doing that, is really looking at the finer points of, because the game now is one in, I got another thing I got to add, and one in such areas. Okay, here's something that's really bugging me. I don't know about you guys. Those lacrosse goals? I'm saying enough. Right? I don't know about you guys. If I'm a defender and I'm close to that guy, I'm taking a slashing penalty. I am not going to let the game of hockey get where a guy puts it on his stick and can kind of carry the puck around. Can you imagine Scott Stevens? He would
yeah.
Out, okay? And
he would drop kick somebody.
I mean, okay, so you can't do that, but I'm thinking, what could you do? I'd say, you know how minor some of the slashing penalties are. You just touch the guy in the gloves. I'm saying I'd take a pretty good slashing penalty and slash that guy, because here's it is to me. I love skill as long as there's resistance against the skill. Skill with no resistance to me is like an all-star game. It's like a skills competition. That's not hockey. So I know I'm a little old school and I don't want to go back to all of it, but I mean, my goodness, it's getting so soft and so, it looks spectacular to the average person. Whoa, you see what he did? But you're not going to see that in the playoffs. Hopefully not. They'll still let him play a little harder, but that's the one thing you could do me a favor. Start to watch, and now what happens on the road or whatever, if the home team player falls for whatever reason, the home team crowd goes crazy like it should be a penalty. And I'm thinking, don't do that. Like, as fans, but it's going that way because it will encourage just more and more of soft penalties. It'll become, I'm telling you, it'll become a no check league if they don't start to change a little bit of the way where they let the, I gotta tell you, like Connor Carrick the other night, we were laughing yesterday. Yeah, he says pretty good heavyweight battle, and da-da-da-da. We were just talking how it stuck out, though, because we don't see any real sort of anger or, pushback. And so I just worry that the game at one time. Well, one time the game was too crazy and too over the top physically, but now I worry that the pendulum has swung, and we're just getting so soft that it just makes it less interesting because, like I say, skill without pushback and resistance, and it's just not, to me, it's not that interesting. So what, you did that, there was no one really could stop you, so, but that's another story, right, boys, for another time?
Yeah. Well, Chico, before we let you go,
Sure.
Facebook Live, a lot of comments were coming in, but a lot of them were saying that we really appreciate your honesty. In this interview, I saw a few people say that, and we really appreciate you and your time. But also, Nick's in Tampa, I'm in Jersey, but the podcast is actually traveling on the road on that March. I think it's March 14th and March 15th, that weekend, Saturday and Sunday. When the Devils are in Sunrise, and then the next day they're in Tampa. We'll be outside doing a live podcast. So if you have time, come out. I mean, we'll feed you. We talked about food, but we're traveling now on the road, and we'd love to have you on, and we can work with your schedule, because on the Let's Go Devils podcast network, we make the time and rules. We don't have a clock, which is great. So.
Hey, let me ask you, and I definitely, you got my number and you can keep me informed. But how's it going? Like, is it growing? Is it getting more?
I'll tell you where we're
more. Yeah.
I'll tell you where we're at right now. Since Jack Hughes got drafted, or actually, should I say, the lottery pick, but it really hit momentum when Jack Hughes got drafted, and then that PK Subban trade happened. I mean, we dropped everything, and we were while everybody was coming back from Vancouver at the draft, we were the only ones that was doing something live. And since then, our total numbers is we're nearing 50,000 downloads and over 350,000 views during our time. So it has grown. We're meeting so many people off the streets like yourself. PJ Ryan's, we partnered up with them at the restaurant outside Prudential Center, and now we've got the demand is high that they've asked us to come to every home game and do a live podcast. So it's a lot of content, as you know, to produce, but a lot of it is a labor of love. We're just, Devils fans at a bar. I mean, that's how the whole premise started, just talking Devils hockey. And it's like, and our online audience, which is live or on demand, if you're at work and you want to listen to it on the replay, that it's an online extension. And I mean, the people we are meeting, stories we're hearing, I don't talk about this for publicity, but, I had a question about a Devils fan that's going through tough times. And, when the Devils are giving out those vouchers, I was like, all right, I'll get you this, I'll get you that, whatever. And I just sent it off. I didn't want any publicity, but I read the story, stuff like that. It's about the whole mission statement. Not to be long-winded, is we promote what's right about being a Devils fan, and that's really what Nick and I, Beer Baron, Shorts Guy, or Jonathan, or Scotty, and now we're adding more people that have come to us that would like to be part. Now it's a network. It just kind of grew organically, and it's been very easy because we're very passionate and invested in the team. So just to answer your question, that's how we're doing. It's growing every day.
No, that's great. Like, you hear, like, I like Devils. I mean, I really like Devils fans, and I like Devil fans to be grounded. I will tell you this, I'm doing the radio. What I don't like is some fans are walking up and we're losing, and they're screaming at me, fire Hines. And then it was like, Shiro's got to be next. Or I just say, please, let's just settle down. Let's talk about it. I understand your frustration. Let's talk about it. And there came a point, like we all agreed, that if the Devils didn't start winning, we could be losing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a mob scene where you're going to lynch somebody, the coach or something, because it's not necessarily his fault. However, we can talk that it may have to be a change made, which it was, right? That's all I'm just saying is, if you can nurture a group that tries to stay grounded from just these knee-jerk reactions and overreactions, and like I would say with the firing of Ray, I don't know all that went into it, but here's what I do know. If you're going to talk about it, whether it was fair or not, just go step by step, what he started with, what were his major mistakes that could have slowed the process, right, of getting to being winners this year, which we would always hope for, and then also talk about all the things that were done, that the fruit of Ray Shiro's planting the orchard is going to come to fruition. He, unfortunately, is not going to be able, at least directly, to enjoy that fruit. But my point is, let's just be honest, and then we can have fun, because it's a game of mistakes, and it's a game of personalities, and it's a game of, extenuating, getting breaks or not getting breaks, or things fell into place, nothing worked. I guess, guys, I'm so concerned about the way, just in general, the social media has caused people in general, whether it's politics or sports, they're just becoming like frightening overreactors and really aggressive. And I think, like what you guys are trying to do, let's have fun. Let's break it down. Let people throw their opinions out and talk and say, well, yeah, that's a good angle. But what about this part of that? And then maybe have a discussion. But I think in the world, we are really looking for a simple answer. Okay, these guys are right and that's wrong. And if they did that, that would turn out, and that won't. And that isn't the way it works, as you guys know. So I worry for my fellow man that they're getting so over the top aggressive and opinionated and so sure that they're right. I said a lot tonight, but I know there's some people out there saying, Chico, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's it. And unfortunately, we can't talk direct, so we can't discuss it. But I'm okay with that. But I just hope that you guys can really bring together a group that is pro-Devils, but all honest, and just not quite so reactionary and stuff that, it brings some civility to life. Like, I want you guys to be passionate, but I don't want, the fans that go over the top and they're saying, well, I'm just a rabid fan. I know, but just tone it down a little. So anyway, that's just my final thoughts, is that you guys have an opportunity here, because it's so young, to really set the table. Like you said, you guys are running the show and setting up how you want it done. And so I just encourage you guys to make it a real quality deal here. And it's just fun being a part of it and talking to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty clear, Chico, that I've seen some rabidness online more than I've seen in years past, and people just want to yell at the nothingness that is the internet and have people agree with them and have people to fight with. So I do agree. Yeah. I think that we all just need to listen to Taylor Swift. You need to calm down and, think of the positives. Binghamton's won 8 in a row. That, we have these great players. We get to watch Blake Coleman and Nikita Gusev every night. Mackenzie Blackwood looks really good, and he's 23 years old. We have Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier on this team for the next 10 years. Like, come on, guys. There's a lot to like. I know the season didn't go so great.
And Marty Brodeur is learning, and he's one step closer to being GM. You think, Chico?
No. No,
No.
absolutely not.
Yeah,
I'm going to say it. I asked him direct. I said, well, no, I just said, Marty, do you want to jump in that pool of the life of being a GM where you really sell your soul? Like you guys, you wouldn't know. I mean, you couldn't know, but the amount of time that a GM throws into this job and it doesn't end. It doesn't end for 1 month in the year. And I guess that's what I feel bad about any GM that does lose his job like Ray. He's put so much into it. But Marty says, hey, he says, I'm not stupid. He says, I want to be part of this organization for a long time. But he wants to be above that fray. The president.
Imagine if they had to fire. Imagine if they had to fire Martin Brodeur. How do you fire Martin Brodeur in New Jersey? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I think that he's fine where he is.
The only comparable I can think of is Bobby Clark and with the Philadelphia Flyers in that situation. I hate to see anything,
Well, look at what happened to Hextall. Look at what happened to Hextall. Hextall, they had to fire.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you guys that's what Marty said to me. He said, I don't care what I did on the ice. I mean, if for some reason the team doesn't win, and you know what? I brought up Bobby Clark, and there would be others. I still think of when Wayne Gretzky went up to coach. I thought, it pained me to see him on the bench and the team couldn't win, and it wasn't really his fault. But, Marty, that's not, what Marty is looking to do. But what a resource for his hockey knowledge, and he's good with corporate people, and and doing special events like his golf tournament. So he's going to be really involved. But no, he does not. He says to me, "Remember, that's why I left St. Louis. I realized I was on the job training, learning, but I realized this isn't what I want." So, he had the taste of building to be a GM, and he said, no, that is not what my wife and I want to do in the future. I don't know. It could be Tommy Fitzgerald. I understand from the listening to it that, that his name was mentioned as he would have a consideration. So, I mean, the thing is, boys, like Ray's put together a tremendous team, and they've been working on coming up to the trading deadline. Of course, the drafts, they've been really involved. It's going to be a good draft. So a lot of the thought process is being formulated by basically Ray's people, only Ray not now being there. And I like the direction they're going. So, you know what I mean? I don't think it has to change. I personally don't want someone to come in where we start to think that, okay, this guy's going to really do this, and this. No, it's a slow process. I don't want any major. We don't need a major deal. We need to build what we have, develop those kids that are in college and junior. We could maybe sign a free agent, tweak here and there, but I just like what you said so well, all the fun things and all the assets that are starting to develop. Let's just go with that and add some extra pieces, and I don't think we're going to have to do a whole lot more. So,
well, Chico, we really appreciate you coming on. You gave us an extra half hour of content. You really knocked it out of the park. Then you went above and beyond for us. We can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you coming on. There's a lot of stuff to talk about with the Devils this week. So you really helped us put an expert's opinion, a guy who's there, a guy who's on the zeitgeist, and we really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Chico.
You're welcome, boys. I wish you all the best, especially in the guys and everybody listening. And let's just stay strong and let's go Devs. That's all I can say. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Let's go Devils. Chico. Thanks, Chico.
That is Chico Resch of the Devils Hockey Network, radio color analyst. going in overtime. What exciting overtime. Going in the shootout, a sudden death shootout. And he closes it with, let's go Devs. That's what it's really all about. That's why we're called the Let's Go Devs podcast.
This went into Henrique It's Over territory. Double overtime.
Wow, he needs to have his own podcast on this platform. I mean, he can go all day.
Oh my goodness, he needs that knowledge. I know Chico knows a lot, but the way he can convey a message like that, and the way he can just present his facts in an entertaining way, and that was, I've heard him on this podcast, but it's a different animal to be on the other side and to try to go back and forth. I'm 31 years old, Sam, and I'm trying to, he's bipping and bopping, and I'm just trying to, keep up with him, and he's killing it out here. So, I gotta say that was a masterclass in podcasting right there, Sam.
And you know what I liked about Chico, this interview, he was so engaging that he asked us questions, and he was really listening. He was really listening to the words that were coming out of our mouth, and he's a great interviewer. He's a pro. He's a pro's pro. And thank you, Melissa Dawn, for Melissa. Get me Chico Resch. We had a last minute cancellation. 2 minutes later, she texts back. We got Chico. Don't worry about it. Okay. But that was amazing. This was sometimes life, the totally unexpected things happen, and I can't wait to put this podcast up on letsgodells.com around midnight, so you can listen to it on replay at work or any of our social media channels, and hopefully we get to see Chico in Florida. We better lock down some of those places because it's definitely going to happen. We just don't know where yet, but it's going to be outside the arena. We're going to scout out Sunrise. Actually, I have a contact in Sunrise. There's a within walking distance of the arena down in Sunrise where the Florida Panthers play, and then Amalie Arena. I mean, worst case, we'll do it, from top of the parking deck like we did that one time over the summer. No, I'm just kidding. But we'll definitely, because there's a lot of transplants out there that probably will visit us, and we'll try to make a 2-day event out of that, Nick. I mean, heck, can you imagine if we got Chico on?
Chico's a big get. He's always a big get.
Yeah. We'll have to lure him with some meatloaf and some fish tacos or something.
I was thinking cheesesteaks. No, we're gonna be in, if we're in South Florida, we got to get him some Cuban.
Yeah,
I'll get him some fried yuca, and we got some real good sandwiches, some Cuban sandwiches up here in Tampa. So,
Eric Selden says I'll be here in Tamps. All right, Eric, we'll be there too. We'll announce this. Keep on listening to Let's Go Devils Podcast Network. Yes, State of the Fan address. Let's Go Devils Podcast. We're actually adding some more podcasts in the near future, but they're in the works right now because I found some other type of talent that will fit through. But keep on listening to us. The Woo Report, wherever I travel, if I have time, I put on the microphone. So, all right. So this game that we're supposed to play, I don't know. I'm wondering if we should just close it, or should I just ask you one trivia question from my 2019 calendar?
Let's close it for now. We'll keep people on. We've kept them long enough, Sam. Let's close it for now. We'll do the game next week. Let's take a week off from the game. Let's fire the game until we hire a new game GM.
Yeah. Too bad we didn't touch on the Palmieri rumor, but
we didn't touch on analytics. I will say one thing real quick before we close, is that I need you guys to remember that things leak for a reason. People have agendas when they leak things. So when you see these rumors about why Ray got fired, There's a reason why the person who leaked it. They didn't do it because they want you to have the information. They did it because they need something. So just remember that. Just going off Chico's point when you see rumors.
Yeah. And, also, sometimes we speculate, sometimes we don't. But I think to Chico's point about, people yelling, to fire John Hines and toning it down. We have a lot of opinions, on this podcast, but we're not inflammatory. And there's a big difference there. We want to say our piece, but we respect your piece. And we say it in a very intelligent way, or goofing around, just like what you do at a bar. Because the last thing we want to do is start a bar fight, right? So,
not a good look.
Also, sometime in the future, notice that we're going to close out with Doc and Chico. Doc Emmerich, sometime in the future, may make an appearance. You're going to like that one.
We got some good guests coming up, fam. Some good guests coming.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, enjoy the game tomorrow. Devils Capitals. Capitals look to get revenge on the New Jersey Devils. Until next time, Devils fan.
Go to Pucks and Pitchforks. I talked about Gallant.
Yeah, pucksandpitchforks.com. Until next time, Devils fans. Let's go Devils.